Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Femme Force podcast. My name is Rachael and I am your host. And today I'm going to have an amazing conversation with Ami and Vicky, who are co-founders of The Sacred Shift. They're first generation Indian American founders with 25 years combined in experience in yoga, meditation, and spiritual study. So we're going to be talking about modernizing yoga, the accountability driven transformation that they have within their company, and the gut soul connection, which I thought was so interesting when we were able to talk about it in our pre-call. So thank you both for joining. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. So tell the audience just a little bit about each of yourselves, and then we're going to dive right into a sacred shift.
Okay, go for it.
So my style, we were talking about this before, is that I'm a little bit slower to get to know. And so when Ami and I first met, it took us a little bit of time to sort of get to know each other. But as we did, we realized that we're very similar in certain ways and yet different. I would say that I'm a really good question asker. Like if we're working together, it's really like, I'm just so inquisitive and curious about what's happening in your life for you, why you think things. And then Ami's really good at picking up on that. And well, I'll let her tell me about herself.
Well, I think I'm more of like, I will take that question and then reflect it back to the person. And so when we met in the spring of 2023 in Miami, and we met at a community gathering. We realized we had friends in common. So that was like an instant comfort level for us. And then we just started talking more and more, realizing that we both were brought up in India. We had very similar backgrounds. We've been teaching for a long time, over 25 years, as you said. And we also realized that we were kind of feeling a little bit disenchanted with the way that yoga was progressing in the West. Vicky's lived in India for quite a bit. So she saw, the vast difference, I would say, between the way yoga moves in India and the way it moves over here in the West, in the US. And so we thought we'd like to perhaps collab. And we really it had happened over time. And one day there was a text and I said it, should we collab? Like, what are we doing here? So
you're like, we belong together.
Right.
Like,
and it just happened. It kind of took off from there. We just, got our laptops. We were like, okay, let's think of what we want to do, what kind of name. And we really came to all of it very quickly. It was very easy to work together and to collab together. And we kind of never looked back. And that's how A Sacred Shift was born in about a year ago.
That's amazing. And what is a sacred shift in one sentence?
Right. So it's a yoga-based program where we support the shift from autopilot and overwhelm, which is very prevalent these days, to more clarity and grounded freedom for our members.
I love that. So, based on your backgrounds and, how you were brought up, you're really bridging that divide between the cultural connection that you have and yoga and that we're doing kind of in the Western world, like you said, and you're modernizing this. So how are you modernizing yoga? Because I feel like yoga is it's an old school thing. It's something that came around in the 90s here in the West. And then, we all, we talked about Eat, Pray, Love and going to Bali and getting a rocking yoga bod. That's not like an unusual thing. It happens. Where was the connect to start?
So I actually feel like we're teaching and we're guiding people through the same techniques and tools that have been taught for thousands of years, right? Because yoga is a over 3,000-year-old practice.
Yeah.
We are sort of adapting to the language because most of it is language. The translation between modern and old is the language, right? So today, whereas people refer to breathing practices as a breathing practice, we know that it's more than that and that we call it pranayama. Right. So we're helping people to sort of get clear about what yoga is. A lot of people think that yoga is like getting onto your mat and doing this physical practice, which it absolutely is. That's where it begins. But then taking them deeper and helping them understand that, well, while you're on your mat, you're spending this time with yourself intentionally focused, right? And these things are all part of yoga and just sharing with them the vocabulary around it, really, right. I think that's a big part of modernizing it is the language.
Yes.
And sharing it that way.
Because our core mission is really to have this holistic approach to all limbs of yoga. And I think in the West, often yoga is linked to asana, which is very physical, the postures, right? But there are all these other sides of yoga. There's like abstinences, observances, there's breath work, there's concentration, there's meditation, there's sensory withdrawal. There's so many other parts of yoga that are slowly creeping in. But still very physical focus. And so we're just trying to open up the door to see all of the limbs of yoga.
And why did it feel like this was the right time to start this? There's yoga studios all over, but yours obviously is very different in the way that you're bringing it to your customers and things. But why were you like, we're doing it right now?
Well, two reasons. One is personal, and then one is just the situation in the world. So personally, we're both at a point in our lives where we have extra time that we want to devote to something sort of larger than ourselves, right? A lot of what we're doing is helping people learn about themselves, feel good about themselves, be happier, invite more joy into their lives, and peace, really. And so we now have the time because our families are grown up and sort of, flying.
Doing their thing.
Yeah. Launched.
Yeah.
Right. And so now we have the time to do this for other people. And then talking about the situation in the world, that is, I think that we're ready to share and people are ready to receive because it's so needed. Right.
As it just feels like anxiety is on the rise across all age groups, right? And we're just offering tools, almost like a toolkit to manage that, no matter what age you are, no matter what station or season of life you're in. It just feels like this is the right thing to do. And again, putting the spotlight on yoga that is not just a physical practice, right? When I was teaching in New York City, oftentimes, the whole class would, have a nice flow, vinyasa flow. And then suddenly I would see right at the end of class, people would be gathering their things and stepping out on the shavasana, which is the end of class where you just lay on your mat and essentially integrate everything you just practiced. And it's honestly probably the most important posture in the whole practice. And so, I was like, what is happening here? Like people are really not focusing on the point of this.
Or we're so go. Yeah.
Correct,
You're going and
right.
you're doing the movements and then you're on
your
your way.
I did my yoga and now I got to go to the next thing.
Right. And it's so funny, right? Because you say shavasana, which is the most important and the hardest.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, 1,000%. My mind is, what is that?
Yes.
It's literally like Eat, Pray, Love when she goes and she tries to meditate and she's like, I've definitely been here an hour. And like you open your eyes and you're like, I have been here 30 seconds. Like how?
Yes.
It's that, or like I had a massage the other day and I'm like literally telling myself, I'm like, you need to relax, turn your mind, like stop.
Right.
This is your time. What am I doing? I'm making timelines and lists in my head. And like, no, I was like, this is your moment. Like why can you not just take your moment?
So
It's hard. It is the hardest part though.
Yeah.
It's hard.
And it's a lot of that self-talk,
Yep.
like talking to yourself. So much of what we share with people is that like, go to the mirror, say this to yourself, come up with an affirmation that feels right for you. And literally wake up in the morning, go to the mirror and say it, set your day up that way.
Right. Because so often we don't speak to ourselves the way we speak to our family or our friends. You would never say half of the things you say to yourself out loud to anybody else.
Oh God, no.
Right?
No, I would have no friends. I talk to people.
We're all on the same boat
I talk to
there.
my friends. Yeah.
Right.
I would have no friends.
Yeah. So like for Sacred Shift, our big motto, or if you could say slogan, is art. So it's awareness, right? Like knowing what your patterns are, what your habits are, what your leanings are. And then reflection, reflection on that. And it could be through a yoga practice on your mat. It could be through concentration, looking at a candle. It could be talking to someone about what happened recently to you. And then and that kind of leads into transformation, right? So through this little path, art of a sacred shift, that's how we've been really making some change with our members, and it's been going well.
No, I mean, it's amazing. And you do monthly themed groups with like these prompts that build connection. Can you talk about the groups and how that works?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was just telling, I mean, I think the groups are amazing because for people that are part of them, people have busy lives. It's not always easy to get to a class or commit an hour a day to your practice. But these groups, we do them on WhatsApp. So everyone has the app on their phone and is familiar with the platform. And we run them monthly. They start on the first of the month. They run for the whole month. So you join our group, and depending on the month, we either send you a prompt every day or every other day. It could be every 2 days. And the prompt is usually something that's either action-based or reflection-based.
Okay.
The action-based prompts are reflective because you perform the action and then you reflect. But the reflective-based prompts are basically questions that you need to think about. And then people take their time and they come to the group and they sort of share their findings about themselves. They, come back and share what they felt during the few days that we were apart, right? Mm-hmm. And so we were talking about how it's kind of like we hook somebody at the beginning of the month, like we're fishing. Mm-hmm. We give them a prompt. They kind of swim away a little bit, and we kind of reel them back in as they come back to share with us. And it's just a great practice for people because it doesn't take a lot of time, and yet it's so effective. At the end of the month, we send you like a monthly, like an end of the month summary of what you've said in the group. And to see that, I mean, that's really powerful. I think that's really powerful for people.
Yep. And as opposed to like a teacher-student model, we're kind of all in it together, right? Because we're also answering the prompts at the same time.
Oh, that's nice.
So, every month can be totally different. Like we may have a plan, and we do have a plan, but, just based on the direction the group's going, or like if people want to share more on one particular prompt, then we kind of go with that, right? So it's a kind of a neat, ever-evolving community group. And it's totally different based on the members that month, based on the topic. And
what's an example of a prompt?
Yeah. So November, we did 30 days of thanks. Like makes sense. Gratitude, Thanksgiving. Yeah. But not in the usual way, right? Like not just what am I grateful for, but beyond that. Like for example, one of the prompts was, please, either write to someone or tell them in person why you are grateful for them. And we said, maybe pick 3 people in your life. And so this is challenging, for people to, first of all, like step out of their comfort zone, because it didn't always have to be a person that you enjoy. Like sometimes it could be a person that you don't enjoy, but you find grateful parts of them and you might want to share. So people were vulnerable a little bit, but they opened up. And what they really found, which I think was the most transformational, is that when they did this, either again in a text or a voice message or in person, they would say it or type it. And then that person would usually or sometimes come back to them with why they were grateful for them. Like many of our members weren't expecting to get that back. And it was quite emotional actually for some. And I think very transformational for a lot.
And then do you ever find that any of the people have like very similar answers and they're able to bond outside of like this digital form that they're doing it in?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that you realize how much you have in common with other people and how so many of us feel the same things. And you kind of, go through life thinking that, well, they know what they're doing, or they're super confident, or they've just got the best life. And then you're in this group and you realize like, okay, they're also fearful of sharing their answers, And so it leaves people very vulnerable, but also it's beautiful to see people open up. People that start the group and say, I'm going to be in the group, but I'm not sure how much I want to share. And then you'll get like a paragraph from them, 2 weeks into it, because they connected with someone else on the chat and they could reply to them and say, oh, me too.
Right. And and then they've taken it beyond the chat, right? Like people, is the coolest thing, really. Like, and a lot of these people don't know each other. Some of them do know each other. But when you make these connections with people, that's part of like the shift, right? And it's like this intentional work. And then you get these beautiful, like little gifts after the fact.
No, 1,000%, and budding relationships that you might not have found otherwise. And I mean, as an adult, it's so important to have relationships in general, but it's so hard as an adult to find friends, to make friends in general.
Right.
And then to find friends that are like extremely compatible with you as an adult.
Yes.
I feel like a lot of times, like either you're a mom and that's your title. So you're like all your friends are moms, or like you work. So it's only your work friends, because that's the only thing you surround yourself with. And so to do something outside of it for yourself, to find people that are also looking, that has to be really special.
Absolutely. And that's why we thought this is also the right moment for a sacred shift, post COVID and the things that have been going on since then. We feel like, the idea of community is very much changed and is continuing to change. We're rooted in community, right? And whereas like, it seems like there's a shift to a little bit more solitude and solitary lives, like isolation. A lot of times people are working from home. They're not going to the office, right? They'd rather just like FaceTime with someone than meet them out for a coffee or something. So, and we just want to share a few stats about this. I'm just going to read here. So 45% of men aged 18 to 25 have never approached a woman in person.
I believe that.
All online.
I go to a bar all the time and I'm like, someone, anyone, like I really worked hard on looking like this tonight. Where are you?
Right. The average female pet owner spends more time with her pet than all humans put together. Okay.
Here for it.
All right. Young men are increasingly isolated, with 1 in 7 men having no close friends. And that's a 5 times increase since 1990.
I could see that. Yeah. It's the video games. You think you're socializing, you're not in person socializing.
And they think that they're socializing by playing with other people, right? Yeah. And then between 2003 and 24, the amount of times that Americans spent attending or hosting a social event declined by 50%. 50. So these are like some pretty major statistics that show that, yes, you can be isolated, but it's nice to have even an online community, which you can then take
offline.
IRL, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we have that for a reason. I mean, you're creating these connections, but you're also, doing something else with spirituality. You're bridging the science and spirituality. Yep. So you're doing a lot of work with understanding the gut-brain connection. Mm-hmm. So can you explain what is the gut-brain, gut-soul connection, and what is that?
So as we understand the gut-soul connection, we see it kind of as a loop.
Yep.
Okay. So let's begin in the gut, right? The gut is made up of what we eat. So we're not going to start with food. We're going to start with the gut, but the gut is fed by your food. Your food is not just what you eat, it's what you consume. So energetically as well, right? What's your energetic diet? What kind of foods are you eating? When are you eating them? What kind of media are you consuming? What kind of music are you consuming? Who are you spending your time with? What are you reading? All of this affects your gut, your gut biome. And your gut biome then determines your hormone levels and your brain chemicals and the cortisol and the serotonin. And that shifts your brain, into this state of joy, or maybe sadness, or maybe you're feeling silly or, adventurous. It all comes from the chemicals in your body, which all come from everything that you've consumed. And so it's kind of like we have this gut that feeds our brain, and then our brain is connected. So when you're in a state of openness and calm, and you're able to receive, you're able to appreciate things, which allows you to be able to believe. You don't have to believe in God or in spirituality, but you have to believe in something that's greater than yourself, right? Like the research shows that people that are happiest believe in something greater than themselves.
And then
it could be the
purpose
sun,
or something. Yeah.
Right.
it could be the stars,
The universe, whatever.
something that's bigger than just, my 90 years of life, right? Like, this world has been here for a long time. It will continue to be here for a long time. There's something out there keeping it going. And so this is like how the whole loop happens, starts in your gut. It affects your brain. It affects your ability to believe and appreciate. And then that just kind of feeds back into being a happier person, being a more settled person, lets you sort of desire and crave all the good stuff that feeds you well.
Yeah. And so like in bringing the soul even further into it is that it's essentially like the practice of listening to your body's inner intelligence, right? So when the other loop is happening, you can kind of come closer or come home to yourself, to your intuition, to your inner voice. So it's almost like this gut soul connection is the bridge between feeling and knowing and trusting yourself. And that's what we're working on.
I mean, I love that. And it, especially today, because you hear all of those, buzz things about eat more protein. This is going to help your gut, or this is affecting your thyroid, is these kind of things. Like, it comes down to so much more. And like, it's so complex is how you're explaining it.
Right.
Like, it's a really complex situation. And I think that, you have to know that like your emotions affect your body 1,000%.
Absolutely.
They call it stress stomach for a reason. Like, it happens because like you're involved in those kind of things.
Definitely. Yeah. And so,
how do go ahead.
I'm saying just in general, like everyone's talking about nervous system balancing, right?
Yeah.
Essentially, yoga has known this for a very long time through all the limbs of yoga that I just spoke about earlier. And so we're essentially teaching it in a slightly different way, but we're getting down to nervous system regulation. And once you have the balance of the two, you can't just be on one side of your nervous system, right? We can't just be in that calm, like chill, because you would never get anything done. You wouldn't get out of bed, like you'd just be chilling. But so balancing the two and knowing kind of when to shift and fluctuate from the parasympathetic to the sympathetic and vice versa. That's a skill. That's also just a practice. You have to experiment. You have to try new things, and you are your own teacher in a way. We're just guiding you towards it.
No, and I feel like it's so, especially with everything that we consume, what's going on in the world, the social media that we're getting, like we're on edge. I know I am. I'm on edge all the time. Right. My Aura ring tells me I'm gonna die at any moment. It's very up to date on my HRVs, but like it's always one of those things where like the nervous system is the now thing that we're talking about. Right. Like the gut was the thing that we were talking about last year. But like these things, once we're done and we're on to the new thing, don't just go away. They are actually very important.
Yes.
And the fact that you're like driving that home within, your ancient practices and modernizing it, like that's really impressive.
Thank you.
It's also all very connected, right? Like you said, we were talking about the gut last year, and now we're talking about the nervous system. And that's kind of that whole gut soul connection. They don't occur in isolation. They fully feed off of each other.
Right.
And so getting people to sort of play with that and see how things work out for themselves is like a really big part of also what we're trying to put forward. Like people say, well, how do you know it works? Well, there's only one way to know how it works.
Right.
Yeah, you have to. And with like burnout and like all of these things that are happening, and burnout's a huge thing. We're getting returned to offices. We're especially women, we're doing all things. Why do you think people today are more open to having this spiritual guidance and the mindfulness and working on that?
I think for one that we have so much data now. We're really like flooded with data, like your Oura ring or a sleep tracker or your Apple Watch, right? You're getting tons of feedback, tons of data, almost like every minute of the day, and how you slept last night. But I think now people are craving a little bit more meaning of the data, but what's beyond the data? Like, yes, the data helps me to understand if I slept well, like what was my REM sleep, or, how many steps did I do today? But how do you feel? Like in the end, you have the data, but go back to that feeling, that inner intelligence, right? You were giving an example about a sleep tracker, right?
Right. So my husband uses a sleep tracker. And even if he wakes up feeling rested, if his sleep tracker tells him that he had a
Yes.
not so restful night, well, all of a sudden he thinks that he didn't sleep so well. So now he needs to go to bed earlier the next night. But I'm like trying to share with him, well, how do you feel? Do you feel like you slept? Because I would go based off of how I feel versus what the app is telling me.
And it's like bridging the gap between the two things, right? I mean, it's not bad to have data. We love it, but use it in a meaningful way.
Well, look, like you said, look beyond it.
Right.
You have to look beyond it. For people that are in the program and they're, having these, doing the yoga and the movement, but also doing the prompts and creating these relationships and having this experience, what transformation do you see with people who stick with it? I feel like, especially since we're in the new year right now, new year, new goals, like everybody's on it, but like those can trickle off. So for people who are able to stick with it, and I think the accountability part in the chat is such a big thing there. What do you see at the end of this? Like, what are people coming out with?
So I think it's like a little bit is in our name, a sacred shift, because what people are noticing are these tiny shifts in themselves and in their days. So they're becoming more aware of their habits and things that they've, sort of relied on for years. And they're realizing how they can either accept things and move on or change things and move on. But either way, they're sort of realizing that, oh, this is me. Oh, I didn't even realize that about myself. So they're learning about themselves, which I think is just such a great way to be on a path to acceptance of oneself, is to understand, who you are. So they're learning about themselves. They're creating habits. They are accountable. They are, they're feeling good about themselves. Like, bottom line is that they're feeling good about themselves. They're like, oh, I, committed to not using my phone when I'm in a checkout line. And I was in the checkout line, but I knew that I was going to have to come back to the WhatsApp group. Right. Yeah, and exactly. So I stood in that line and I didn't look at my phone, and I feel so good about myself. Right. So it's really, people are feeling good about themselves.
And sometimes stepping out of their comfort zones, like when we asked, to share to somebody in person or online, it's like, how do you grow, right? You can, like Ricky said, you can stay in your path and you can have your habits, but once you become aware of these habits or like loops that are happening in your life, patterns, and then like making a slight shift, and then also like taking a leap, like taking a little step out of your comfort zone, is how a lot of people grow in this world. And when you get to a certain age, a lot of people don't want to do that, right? They're like, I'm good. Like I did that when I was in college. I did that when I started work. But there's always time to keep moving forward, like making little changes, intentional changes to help you transform. And that's what we see a lot.
Yeah. I mean, and you launched this only in the spring of last year. So like, there's only so much more room to grow and like to see, not just for these individual people that are part of the program, but for the company too.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, so we basically do in-person workshops. We will do private coaching one-on-one with either the both of us or one of us. We do the WhatsApp groups, of course. And then we have a monthly newsletter where we share like reflections and some wellness ideas and some like things in the marketplace that we enjoy. So, we kind of get the whole spectrum of what we're doing out there in different modalities. But yeah, it's a new business, but it's been fun. It's been fun because we're working together. I think we really enjoy, we're accountable to each other, right? We love to bounce ideas off each other. And we definitely, like Vicky said, we complement each other, but we also have a lot of synergies that have helped us grow quite a bit in the community.
I love that. And what do you see for this year? Do you have any big plans or goals that you want to reach? Since, I mean, you're new and it's going to be like, what an amazing journey to be fresh in this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, For me, the thing I'm looking forward to most is an in-person retreat.
Mm.
I think that having a couple of days together with our members would just be very, very heartwarming. And I can see a lot of growth coming out of those retreats. So for me, the biggest thing I'm looking forward to is hosting our first retreat.
It's great. Yeah. And we're looking for sites and spaces. So that's happening in the background. So it is nice. Like we have the online community, but then to pull them into real life, they may join or they may know people that want to join, but there's nothing like being in community, right? In a different way in real life. So that's exciting. And then also one of our big groups that we'd like to focus on a little bit more is our women kind of in their 20s, like early, like college, like mid-college to getting into the working world, right? Exactly. Or even figuring out what they're going to do, because now that we reflect on it, we see our own children growing up. It would have been so nice to have something like this at that point in our lives, at that stage in our lives, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of what we do is like prep work, with, like think about a new mom, right? That has given birth, like they have prepared for this birth. This is like your yoga mat, your yoga practice. Doing the things that we're helping you do is practice for real life. And so being a part of like our WhatsApp groups or our workshops, we're giving you the opportunity to practice these things. If a prompt is, set a timer on your phone for 3 times today. And every time that timer goes off, take 3 deep breaths and then notice how you feel. Well, that's wonderful for our WhatsApp group. It's amazing when you use it in your real life.
Yeah.
And so I think that the younger you learn it, the longer you have to use it.
Absolutely.
Oh, 1,000%. And you created a habit. Like the younger you start it, you're creating a habit.
Exactly. So yeah, that's it. And we have other things brewing. We'd love to
give
a few more talks and, in different communities and things like this. So
that's amazing.
It's good.
It's going to be a good year. We're excited for that.
I think so. Yes.
I have one final question I like to ask all my guests. So for each of you, but same question. If you could give one piece of advice to your 16-year-old self, what would that be?
Ooh, that's a good one. I will start. I would say trust in so many things that seem scary sometimes at that age. Confidence is a big one, I would say. You have to trust yourself. And a lot of trusting yourself is knowing yourself, right? So it keeps coming back to like coming home to yourself. And I wish, again, like I had this toolkit at that time. High school, weird times. Even going into college, like I have a big age difference between my sister and I. So most of my high school life was babysitting my little sister. So I really didn't have a life until I got to college. And then I was like, wow, what's going on here? So again,
freedom.
Total freedom. And so I felt like, again, like I had to trust that I could handle myself in a totally new environment and just trust along the way. And then trusting also like in this thing, like Vicky said, that's bigger than us out there, right?
Yeah.
Trusting that, yes, you have control or power over what you do every day, but there's also this something other. And I think I always believed that, but I wish I trusted in that a little bit more.
I love that.
Thank you.
Vicky, what about you?
So something that I try to live by even today is something that my yoga teacher said to me when I was in India. And that is to simplify to simply fly. And I love that because I feel like even if I think about a 16-year-old young girl, something happens with the friends and we tend to complicate things because we let our minds just take over. Right. And so we make things more complicated sometimes than they need to be. That's from that point of view. The other point of view is like maybe trying to do and be everything for everybody. It's not going to happen, So really think about yourself and what you need Because if you're your best version, then you can help everyone else. And so I think that comes from simplicity and from just like dialing it back a little.
Yeah.
No, I love that though. But I mean, number one, love that saying. I'm writing that down.
It's a
But
good
also,
one.
we do that today. It's cognitive anxiety. Like
Yes.
you do one thing, and then I'm like, I'm gonna remember that for the rest of my life, and I should have done it this way. And 4,000 things go through your head. So I can only imagine, like at 16,
Yeah.
the pressure that we put on ourselves to think about that. So that's amazing advice. Well, tell everyone where they can find you. We're going to put it in the show notes, but websites, all of that, where they can sign up.
Yeah. Well, we have an Instagram at A Sacred Shift, as well as YouTube. So we have some free offerings up on YouTube, some classes you can join in at your leisure. And we also, we're working on a website, don't have one yet.
No worries.
We are, through our WhatsApp groups, we have, and also to join our newsletter, it's just an email address, planningasacredshift@gmail.com.
Okay.
And that is how you can join the newsletter that comes up monthly, and it's free, as well as joining the WhatsApp group. Currently, it's $20 to join for the entire month, and every month is different. We have coming up for March, spring cleaning. So it's internal and external.
Right.
Clearing of clutter.
We're going
I
to
love
clear
that.
your mind and your closet.
Yes. What could be better?
Yeah, right there. What's the better spring cleaning? I can't think of anything else.
Right?
That's perfect.
Yeah. And then February is coming home to the heart and focusing on the heart in terms of heart health, heart rate variability, heart opening practices through reflection and action. So those are the few of the things that are coming up for us.
I love that. Well, this sounds like amazing things. And I hope everybody makes sure to email them, get on the WhatsApp chain. Like, what an amazing way to start off your year and have accountability, not just for your body, but for your mind, for your soul. I think that's so, so important. So thank you both so much for coming on. I appreciate it. And I know I got a lot out of this. So I know the listeners are going to also.
Thank you, Rachael. It's been a pleasure.
Much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. And we'll see you next week.